Hello and welcome to Business 7, your weekly program on financial matters and economic issues, not only in Namibia but also in Africa. Today we're focusing on retirement funds, the trends currently in the industry, so do stay tuned for that.
Thank you so much to FNB for this opportunity. Thank you so much to FNB. What an experience. I never got to do shopping in 5 minutes, but look at all this.
As you know, Business 7 is not just about what's happening in Namibia, but also take a look at what is happening on the African continent. Let's quickly take a recap of the 5 top business stories in Africa over the past week as compiled by Reuters.
Here are 5 business stories making headlines in sub-Saharan Africa this week. Africa's first female billionaire, Isabel dos Santos, can be personally added to a $400 million lawsuit being brought against a company she owns, London's High Court ruled on Thursday. Angolan telecoms operator Unitel is suing Santos's Dutch company Unitel International Holdings over loans it says were not repaid a decade ago. Santos, daughter of Angola's former president, vehemently denies that she has breached any of her director's duties, her lawyer said in court filings. South Africa's rand hit a record low in the early hours of Friday morning after a central bank interest rate hike failed to impress some traders and economists. The South African Reserve Bank's 50 basis point move to a 14-year high of 8.25% is aimed at taming inflation. Democratic Republic of Congo is aiming to boost its stake in a cobalt and copper joint venture with Chinese firms from 32% to 70%. That's according to a document outlining Congo's demands ahead of talks to overhaul a $6 billion infrastructure for minerals agreement. Congo is concerned the deal currently gives away too much of its resources with little benefit to the country. Nigeria commissioned the Dangote refinery on Monday amid hopes of transforming the country into a net exporter of petroleum products. However, analysts have warned that securing crude supplies amid declining oil production could affect the massive petrochemical complex achieving full production this year. And finally, a senior Kenyan security official has dismissed as propaganda a Reuters report detailing a years-long series of hacks by Chinese cyber spies against the government. The findings are based on 3 sources: cybersecurity research reports and analysis of technical data. Kenya has used billions of dollars in Chinese loans to fund an aggressive push to build or upgrade railways, ports and highways. 2 sources assess the hacks to be aimed, at least in part, at gaining information on debt owed by Kenya to Beijing. China's foreign ministry said it was not aware of any such hacking.
Every day, you make choices that make you legendary. Journey together with us on the path to securing your legacy as a member of the League of Legends. With the Select Platinum Bundle Fee Premium Bank offering, you will access tools that will enable you to thrive. If you earn 850,000 Namibian dollars per annum or more, you can apply for this offering today via bankvinted.com.na for only 447 Namibian dollars per month. Bank Vinted, a member of Capricorn Group.
Making sure that you adequately plan and cleverly plan for your retirement when you have your golden years is an extremely important issue. We are happy to be joined by Joleen Mans. She's the head or the chief of consulting at AlexForbes Namibia. Welcome to our studio, Joleen.
Thank you, Jo-Marie. Feel very welcome.
We're going to break it down and keep it informal because it is quite a complex issue, this whole thing about retirement or pension funds, etc., etc. But to start off with, can you tell us more about the state of retirement funds at the moment?
Well, Jo-Marie, looking at what is currently in our market, I mean, just looking at our pension fund industry, it's almost double the banking sector, which is 190 billion,
Wow.
and the pension sector is 290 billion of GDP. So, and also then looking at formal employed members, employees, I mean 45%, and those 45% need to look after the people at home, people that do not get a job, and then of course we need to look at the future for them, the retirement outcomes. So we need to plan for retirement while they're working, and also to ensure that they have something to go take home with, and also to look for after their families. So it's a lot of trends that happened in the markets over the last few years, and it's accelerated over COVID differently.
Yes,
so
yes.
yeah, we that is what the current status is, but also the change is very rapid.
Indeed. And I mean, listening to those figures, it is truly mind-boggling, and it gives you an idea of the immense importance of this industry in Namibia, but also the tremendous responsibility on companies like AlexForbes Namibia that have to take care of those investments. You spoke about trends. What are you guys seeing?
Jo-Marie, if you look at what happened in the 1950s, defined benefit fund, the only one that we really have in Namibia, the big one, the GIPF, is a defined benefit fund where the employer promises a benefit at retirement. So in the 80s, it shifted from this defined benefit fund to defined contribution, where the benefit is not promised anymore, only the contribution towards it. And therefore also the investment risk moved to the members. So looking at that, I mean, the members didn't have enough education, and I'm even sure they don't have enough education today still. So we need to get again and speak to them about it. And the shift to defined contribution and standalones to umbrella funds then happened. And AlexForbes is really looking at a plan, and a simple plan, to look and cater for those trends, but as well as, again, focusing on member outcomes at retirement.
And the whole thing about the contribution, it is quite scary for the normal man in the street, because, as you say, all of a sudden the risk is on the member. And I know, especially during COVID, we saw quite a slump, and people were really, really worried. So it's extremely important that you speak to people who actually know and understand the industry, because there must be a lot of strategy going into what you guys are doing.
Yes, I mean, education to members is a passion of mine. And I need to tell people what are they doing now. If they do not preserve, what will happen at retirement. But I also am very aware that people look at costs. I mean, cost of retirement, the administration, and the cost of an investment fee. Not only looking at the returns, if it's up or down, but all these things need to be combined and provide something that members can use and understand on a day-to-day basis what they are doing for their own advantage at retirement. So we're definitely looking at a harmonization and consolidation of these different aspects, these important ones, and eventually our focus is in simplification.
We'll get to simplification in a minute. You spoke about fees and all of that, and I find that especially after COVID, your ordinary person is under such immense financial pressure that we tend to have a short-term outlook on the situation now. So it's one of the things that we think, you know, it's okay, we don't need to do that right now. We can start doing that in 5 or 10 years, but it's not quite, it doesn't really work like that. Long-term strategy is extremely important.
Definitely. You need to understand what you want. What do you want to replace at retirement? How much of your income do you want to replace, and what is your needs at retirement? So to get there, you have to start work as early as possible to alleviate your cost or your expenses eventually. I mean, you don't want the last 10 years prior retirement then to put all the money you have in a retirement fund. You should have started early and continuously contribute even a small amount to get to that, but you don't want to pay too much for that as well. So again, you must understand the education, what you're doing now, and the effect it will have in the long term, and eventually to have the best outcome. I mean, you want to have a comfortable retirement and not worry about where does my next meal come from. But however, I mean, mentioning the short term, I mean, today, what is more important, saving for retirement or the meal on my table?
Yes.
So it is a bit of a balance act that you need to have on a day-to-day basis. So,
one of the buzzwords with AlexForbes Namibia at the moment is simplification. What is it, and what are you trying to achieve with that?
well, looking at our slogan, insights, advice, and impact, that is what we want. We've got the insight. So we've got all done the surveys, we've got the background, we've done we have the data to check how many members, how much do they contribute, all the actuarial calculations to see what will they replace eventually. That insight we can give to our clients. And coming to the advice through, investment, or not investment, but advice-led, we will guide the members or the funds or the clients to have the impact eventually when they need it most, at retirement or at death or anything like that.
Your journey around this whole simplification strategy, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, our umbrella framework, our umbrella fund framework, is that what we see as best advice. So looking at getting economies of scale with combining into an umbrella fund, so it's unrelated participating employers part of it, and eventually give those members part of the strategies and outcome through education, road shows, sessions, documentation, online. Technology is very important to the young people, so they want the app, they want to go online, they want to check their values, they want to see if I make these calculations, what will I get? So that is all part of the integrated service we provide. We can give that to a standalone fund as well, but we focus on best advice being an umbrella fund.
Joleen, AlexForbes Namibia, tell us about their vision for a retirement fund for the future and within the context of simplification.
Germany, we focus on our umbrella fund and the package solutions around it. That brings in the economies of scale, various participating employers that is not related to each other, but eventually looking after the members in the long term. So, of course, best advice is very important to us, and the slogan being insights, advice, and then eventually the impact that you want to make. So we've got the insights, the data, the surveys, the actuarial calculations that we work through, and we can see where the members are now and where they will be and what they need to be there one day. So the focus is definitely around, and we've got our umbrella fund, which is the AlexForbes Namibia Retirement Fund, where we have the whole package as one. We can provide these advice-led solutions to standalone clients as well. They're welcome to contact us, and we can guide them through the process.
Thank you very much, Joleen, for joining us once again, bringing very solid advice. Any parting thoughts from your side?
Well, look after yourself today to be independent one day, if I may say. We all want to be financially independent in a certain, but start early and continue looking after yourself.
Very, very solid indeed. I think the issue of independence once you are retired is extremely important for self-esteem. So thank you very much, AlexForbes in the studio, Joleen Mans. We're looking forward to getting you guys back at another time with some more tips.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At AlexForbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
In Ghana, up to 30% of mangroves have been lost to degradation and destruction in the last 25 years. This has knock-on effects as mangroves provide vital ecosystem services, supporting livelihoods, fisheries, timber, and fuel wood. They also act as natural barrier, protecting vulnerable communities against erosion and capture carbon from the atmosphere. They are critical for biodiversity, providing breeding grounds for fish populations and homes to many biodiverse fauna.
Here in Akplo Toko, processing of fish from both the sea and the river is our main occupation as women, and we depend mainly on the mangrove as our only source of firewood.
I am into the firewood business. When we harvest the mangrove for firewood from a particular place, we replant the field. We are paid for our labor after the firewood is sold. The money we earn from this business is what we use for our upkeep. With this business, I was able to send all my 6 children to school.
If you take the various biodiversity, we have the mangroves, which has 3 species. For the fauna, we have the sea turtle, the West African manatee, and then the West African sitatunga. In addition to that, we are aware that this area is also a site for the migratory birds and then the sea turtle.
There are some animal species that use the mangroves as their habitat, such as monitor lizards and turtles. Our concern now is how to protect these species through the preservation of these mangroves.
The World Bank, of course, is supporting us through a project known as WACA, where we are looking at building resilience along some coastal communities. Therefore, we are going to use mangroves as one of those interventions. ProBlue is working also with us. They're carrying out a number of assessments, looking at how women depend on mangroves.
This analysis will be scaled up for other local institutions and West African governments. This is part of the World Bank's broader integrated land and seascape management approach, Ridge to Reef.
The Forestry Commission supports the Blue and Blue Green agenda. Last year, a total of about 20,000 seedlings were planted during the Greening Ghana commemoration, and throughout last year, a total of about 17 hectares of degraded mangrove habitats have been restored. This is what the Forestry Commission has done.
I am so excited to be part of a team of women employed here. This is a huge encouragement for us, the women. Our job here is to nurse the mangrove seedlings in these reused water sachet plastic bags and transplant them to the field when they are ready. This is important because the fish stock in the lagoon will grow bigger in size again.
A first for the World Bank in Africa, a mangrove blue carbon pilot program was recently announced, financed by ProBlue, IDA, and energy company Ørsted. The funds will go for planting, technical assistance, and maintenance over 20 years of 3,000 hectares of mangroves in Ghana under WACA. The World Bank with ProBlue support is also providing technical assistance with a series of mangrove studies in the area intended to help the government of Ghana strategically plan sustainable use of mangroves in the communities.
We have had some good experience with the program in their support for landscape activities, and currently we're working with the ProBlue, which has to do with the Kita Songo area, which is going to be rehabilitated and increase the awareness in that area to protect that wetland.
The World Bank with ProBlue support is also working with the government of Ghana on other broader sustainable ocean plans, SOP.
We are excited about it and looking forward to having a very inclusive and comprehensive SOP to bring a lot of traction on ocean-based activities. We see a lot of opportunities that's remained untapped in the ocean, and we want to leverage that for national development to address issues of poverty, inclusion, and to safeguard the environment for current and future generations.
Analysts expect South Africa's central bank to hike its main lending rate on Thursday. For citizens like nail technician Nompumelelo Nkomo in Johannesburg's Alexandra Township, that likely means more pain ahead.
The cost of living is very high. A loaf of bread, my love, is 20 rand.
South Africans have been facing rising food prices driven by the global health crisis and then the war in Ukraine. A power crisis has also hit the economy. Outages, known locally as load shedding, leave many homes and businesses without power for 10 hours a day.
Now it's not helping at all. It's killing our business, especially in a very small business. I can't afford a generator. I can't afford a solar, whatever.
The central bank estimates the blackouts will add 0.5 percentage points to headline inflation this year. Annual consumer price inflation is running at over 7%, above the target range of 3 to 6%. In a bid to control inflation, the South African Reserve Bank has hiked its main lending rate 425 basis points since November 2021. But inflation is still running hot. The bank now faces a dilemma: how to keep a lid on inflation without further stifling economic growth. The majority of economists surveyed by Reuters last week said they expect Thursday's rate decision to be a 25 basis points rise to 8%. Kuketso Mano is a senior economist at lender First National Bank.
Rates are lifting, are trickling up to levels we haven't seen in a decade, right? So, say for example, there is another hike in May, which some analysts do expect to 8%. That should put further pressure on households. And now it becomes, again, important to distinguish these households, right? Your lower end of the spectrum already under pressure, having to deal with rising inflation, incomes not rising as much, food inflation accounting for a majority of the basket. They're going to feel the pressure there.
Economists say credit demand has been rising as household incomes have not kept up with prices. Higher borrowing costs, they warn, could increase indebtedness. At the same time, the rand has weakened by 10% this year, making imports more expensive in another cost likely to hit South Africans' wallets. There used to only be one family in Fanahamit's compound near Chad's border with Sudan. Now, there are 11. The dozens of arrivals are her relatives, and among 90,000 people who've escaped to Chad since fighting broke out in Sudan in mid-April.
When a loved one needs assistance during this difficult time, we can't abandon them. That's why we try to share everything with them. Even the refugees who have set up shelters near our concession come to us to fetch water because they can't afford to buy it.
Today, the women at the home in Kufroon sell roasted crickets as they struggle to get by. Hamit has been forced to make careful economies, but it's not just her household that has been stretched. Her country, Chad, one of the world's poorest, was already hosting 600,000 refugees from its war-torn neighbours. It's also grappling with a fourth consecutive year of food shortages. Overall, around 2.3 million people are in urgent need of food aid, the World Food Programme warned earlier in May. The UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has praised the extraordinary hospitality of the Chadian government and its people, but said the scale of the crisis requires more funding in order to save lives. The sudden influx of people has distorted the market for goods. Hamit says sugar has doubled in price and that the cost of grains and peanuts is high. Tensions have also risen over water. Some refugees at a camp south of Kufroon say they've been blocked by locals from drawing water at a communal well in a nearby village. Instead, forced to dig their own wells in dry riverbeds.
Thank you for joining us in the Business 7 studio. I'll see you again next week. Until then, stay safe.